What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to give you our season preview for the Seattle Seahawks. All that and much more coming your way right now! Alright, before we get into today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video as it will help us out tremendously. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's video. Alright, Nick, with the 2022 NFL season fast approaching, we have another season preview to get to. Today we're going to be talking about the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks went through quite the transformation as the face of the franchise has now shifted from Seattle to Denver, that being Russell Wilson. So when we take a look at the way this team looks, obviously losing Russell Wilson was a big key component. He was the major name that they lost, right? Not only him, but Bobby Wagner as well. Bobby Wagner, who is just the epitome of this Legion of Boom defense, the last remaining standing guy for this team, is now gone. He is with the Los Angeles Rams, so couldn't have been much worse, right? You lose Russell Wilson, you lose Bobby Wagner, and then you lose Gerald Everett, who was your starting tight end. But it's not all doom and gloom for the Seattle Seahawks, as they did have some key additions as well. Taking a look at some of those players, obviously Noah Fant and Shelby Harris coming over in that trade of Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. And then obviously when you take a look at their draft, some of the key components for them for years to come will be offensive tackle Charles Cross and running back Kenneth Walker. These guys will be pillars of this team for many, many years. Nick, why don't you get us started looking at their record predictions? The first 6 weeks of the season, it's possibly going to be a little tougher than normal with Drew Lock under center. So why don't you tell us about the first 6 weeks of the season?
Throughout the first 6 weeks of the season, they have a record of 3-3 with some key games early on, starting with week 1, where they faced the Denver Broncos, with Russell Wilson making his return in week 1, coming back to Seattle to face the Seattle Seahawks. But then you also have to look at Drew Lock and Noah Fant, Shelby Harris. These guys are facing off against their old squad in their new stadium. They're trying to get a big victory. It's going to be a very difficult game for the Seattle Seahawks. A lot of overhaul. It's going to be a lot to process in the first week, and I think that it's going to lead to some struggles with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. I think this run game has had some big overhauls that are going to take some time to get used to. Offensive line's looking much better, but there's a lot of cohesion that it takes to get an offensive line under control, and I think they're going to have those struggles early on. So week 1, big loss to a very key opponent. I think that's going to weigh heavy on them moving forward. And then going into week 6, a big victory, the complete opposite of what happened in week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals. This is a contending team with a lot of big name players. This is going to be without DeAndre Hopkins, but still a big test with Hollywood Brown now with the Arizona Cardinals. I think this is a game where the Seattle Seahawks can prove that they are a competitive team. They can handle the teams even within their own division that are very tough, and I think they're able to squeak one out over the Arizona Cardinals in week 6.
Yeah, 3-3 is actually a really solid record for the Seattle Seahawks in the first 6 weeks of the season. I fully expect them to be happy with that, but they are going to look to improve that and hopefully become the team that they think that they can become. Looking at the next 6 weeks, though, it does not get any better, and in fact, it gets much worse. Taking a look at the level of competition, it ramps up significantly. Week 7 against the Los Angeles Chargers, who have been absolutely overhauled this offseason. Week 9 against the Arizona Cardinals, but this time with DeAndre Hopkins. Week 10 against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and in Week 12, yet again, another team that got overhauled this offseason, the Las Vegas Raiders. The only saving graces are we see Week 8 against the New York Giants, and that bye week to just stop the bleeding. When it's all said and done, the New York Giants just do not have the secondary to compete with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and they are going to have to rely on their offense through Daniel Jones to keep up with the Seattle Seahawks. I do not foresee that happening, so the Seattle Seahawks will come out with a massive victory over the New York Giants, finishing through week 12 4-7.
And then taking a look at the last 6 weeks of the season, it gets even worse, going winless to end the year. But there are a lot of tough games in this final 6-week slate. We have the Rams coming up twice, with the 49ers and the Chiefs right in the middle. But I want to focus on the two games that they really should have a chance at winning. Starting in week 14 with the Carolina Panthers. This is a very tough defense the Carolina Panthers have put together, but that offense with Sam Darnold still under center, it's going to be very reminiscent of last year, and I think they're going to have a lot of struggles. There is going to be a time in this game where you're going to say the Seattle Seahawks should run away with it, but I believe that the Carolina Panthers defense is just going to be a little too strong. Drew Lock not being the quarterback of the future for the Seattle Seahawks, he's going to have his struggles. He's going to hold this team down. And the same thing is going to happen in week 17 when they face the New York Jets, a team that's on the rise, built their team through the draft, and a lot of those guys at this point in the season are going to be fully ingrained into this offense and going to have a lot of cohesion with their team and making improvements, getting ready for their second year. At week 17, it's going to be a very different Jets than we see in week 1, and I think they're going to have what it takes to get one over on the Seattle Seahawks, even in Seattle.
Yeah, if there was one game that I could pinpoint that the Seahawks should absolutely win on the back end of this schedule, it would be week 14 against the Carolina Panthers. I think that they have the offensive firepower to be able to score some points on this defense, where the Carolina Panthers offense is going to struggle against this Seattle Seahawks defense. And you can never forget about the 12th man in Seattle. That is a terrible place to play for a visiting team. So when you take a look at all of that, week 14 could go an opposite way, but 4-13, 5-12 really doesn't matter. This team will end up toward the bottom of their division and toward the bottom of the NFC as a whole. There is a lot that this team needs to do as far as improving over years to come. We need to take a look at this defense. We need to take a look at the quarterback position. We need to start figuring out what the plan of succession is for Pete Carroll and company. I do not expect him to make it past this season as the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. There's going to be a lot of change coming for this franchise, and it's going to start after this season is over. Looking at a 4-13 record, it's not going to be pretty. All right, 12 fans, I want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments down below what you think of our record prediction, and let us know what you expect of the Seahawks this season. All right, well, that's going to be all for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.